It feels very strange meeting with you like this.
But it is strange.
I know, it's a sort of, we're living in these new virtual worlds, and who would have thought us to, I'm not speaking for you, but I think you would agree, Luddites when it comes to Zoom and video, all those things, it's just not really part of our world.
Well, I agree. I mean, I find it really tricky. I've been thinking about this since about 10 o'clock this morning.
Doing this meeting. I know, it's very strange because usually, one, we would have this conversation in private.
Yes.
In your studio.
Yes.
Or people would have the opportunity, clients would have the opportunity to meet you in the gallery, and we can't offer that opportunity now at the moment with COVID-19, lockdown, etc., etc. I mean, it's a very strange thing because we've had to wait several months for this show because it was due in May, and we're now in September, or will be when your show starts. And the title of it's called Journey into Summer, which slightly makes me laugh now because I feel that it's the journey out. It was obviously the journey into your summer, but it's
going to be journeying into next summer.
Next summer, exactly.
You're always journeying into summer in a way, aren't you?
Hopefully. So, just thinking about the show, Christine, and the glorious work you've given us, of which, you know, we're so thrilled with. So thank you, first of all.
Thank you.
It's mainly inspired by your summer holiday in France, would you say?
I would say yes. It took me a long time to get started on the work, but when I got started and I kind of worked out what it was going to be about or what it was about, yes, it was. We spent a lot of time in France, and we spent a lot of time in a place called Tremola.
Oh yeah,
and which is lovely. And we had a house with a big garden there, and went to markets a lot. And actually, I did some of the work when I was there in sketchbooks and things like that. But somehow it wasn't until I got back home that it all started to gel a bit more.
When you go on holiday, do you actually ever take a holiday? Do you ever stop working?
No, never. I hate that. I absolutely hate it. I mean, I try to relax, but relaxing for me in a way is painting. If I'm painting well, then I'm relaxing. The one thing I hate more than anything else is going to art galleries. I can't stand it. Right. I like going to markets and things like that. That's what I really, really like.
I completely get that. I'm very the same. People think if you're in the art world, you're going to want to go to every exhibition, you're going to want to go to every gallery. And actually, I'm like, no, I would rather be around, non-art life, and actually it still stimulates you back into your art life.
It does. It certainly stimulates me. If I start to look at a lot of paintings, I either feel jealous, or I feel overwhelmed, or I feel... Actually, it's not a source of inspiration to me, other people's artwork.
Yeah. Well, also, you have your own imagination, and I mean, the way you put things together is so, to me, this is how I interpret it, your paintings feel very personal. I mean, for instance, your titles.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, talk me through how you title your work.
Well, this is going to sound really crazy, but actually the title is totally important for me. Yeah. And sometimes I can, if I start with a title or an idea and start doing the artwork, it generally doesn't work because that's an intellectual idea.
Yeah.
Whereas I usually start the work just thinking about colours, tone, texture. That's all I think about. I've trained myself to do that. And then as the work starts, I think, hang on a minute, that reminds me of, that looks like, I'm looking at paintings over there just now. And so a title starts to slowly come into my head, and then actually a specific moment comes into my head. I mean, sometimes I can also hear things and I think that's a great title. I was sitting in a cafe once, and I heard two ladies talk about the last time they'd seen Rupert.
Who was Rupert? Just someone in their lives.
And I thought, that's a great name for a painting, the last time I saw Rupert. I don't know anyone called Rupert, but I might pretend I do. Yeah, the title's important. I mean, I love poetry, and I think you can't get a shorter poem than the title for a painting. That's what it's like for me.
I think it's fantastic, Christine, because believe it or not, there are so many artists who go do the paintings, and then they'll go, oh, I've got to put a title to it. And it's either a repetitive series, and I'm not in any way judging. What I'm recognizing is that for a lot of people it's a real struggle, but
Yes.
with work it seems completely integral to it, and gives it that personal sort of human aspect. You know, I always feel like there's such a strong narrative with your work, and it's done with someone in mind, either at the beginning, middle or end, they come into your mind.
Yes. I wasn't always like that. I used to, when I first started to show with Sue Rankin, the very first show, I found it difficult to think of some of the titles, actually. If it wasn't going to be a good title, then I'd rather not have a title.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a great title for one drawing back then, and it was called Miss Lion Jumps the Seesaw. And that's what my daughter used to say when she jumped off the seesaw. She used to shout, Miss Lion jumps the seesaw. And there was a lady called Rowena, and sometimes I used to say, Rowena, can you think up a title for me? But I actually learned a lot about titles from Howard Hodgkin, because I'd seen a film about him, and he talks about this specific moment that he's trying to sort of paint. He talks about a specific emotional memory, and it wasn't that I hadn't actually thought of that before. I had, but he put it into words so well. He was crying, and he put it into words so well in this film, and I thought, actually, that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I want to do. And that's what I'm going to do. So that's really, the titles became.
And that's what you do.
Yes, I do now. I used to be a wee bit self-conscious about it, because sometimes I think, I hope they're not pretentious, but they're not pretentious. They're real. So
they're the opposite of that, actually. They feel much more humble and touching and honest than you know, a title that's sort of more generic.
Yes,
they feel thought about and considered, and that means that your paintings are thought about and considered in their completeness, you know. And I just people always remember the titles of the works they buy from you.
Isn't that lovely?
You know, and a lot of people don't, and a lot of people don't remember the name of the artist when they buy it. They say, oh, I've got that painting, you know, it's that seascape, or it's that. And it always amazes me that people don't remember the name of the artist, but I've come to realize that they don't. They just love the painting. But with you, they both remember your titles and they remember your name. You know, you strike a very, very individual and unique position in that.
That's very humbling, actually, to be honest. I find that quite humbling.
Oh, well, it's true. And but it's because you don't paint in any way generically. I mean, every time I've worked with you now directly with for what, 8 years? 10, I mean, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, 10 years.
And we have never had a show that's the same as the last show. Never. Mm-hmm. You're the only artist I know who you could fill an entire house and you would not think, I've seen that picture before. Mm-hmm. You know, you managed to recreate and yet be completely authentic. It's partly because of your use of colour. You have such a range in colour. It's not, you don't just use sort of blues or whites, or, you know, you use such a range, and your subject matter is vast. It's endless.
Well, I do have a good imagination. And I do love art materials. I love trying out art materials. So supposing you've got, supposing you've got a bowl of oranges that you think looks lovely and you want to paint it. Well, first of all, you have to think, hang on a minute, that can't be just a bowl of oranges. This bowl of oranges has to mean something. So therefore you set out looking for oranges that really do mean something. And that sounds crazy, but for example, blood oranges. I went into this shop, this sort of farmer shop, found these amazing blood oranges. So I remembered that instance. But then when you start to paint them, you think, what's the best way to do this? Would it be best in watercolor, best as a drawing, and that's why I throw out so much work, because I sometimes maybe start it in a watercolor and think, no, that's not catching this. So I think the fact that I like using so many, I'm looking around at all the materials here. I'll let you see them all. Oh, yeah. Well, that's just some of them. But anyway, I think I love trying
the bookshelf behind you. The bookshelf behind you to the left. It's like the neatest bookshelf I've ever seen. I can't see it in the screen anymore, but it was.
Don't go down the OCD route.
No, it's probably got worse in lockdown, right?
It's just exactly the same in lockdown. I'm still cleaning out my cutlery drawers at 3 in the morning.
Oh God, it's absolutely mad, isn't it? Absolutely mad.
It's totally mad.
If I was to sort of, if you were to talk me through a classic, if there is one, probably isn't actually now I'm thinking about it, Day in the Life of Christine McArthur.
Right.
Talk me through it.
Well, first of all, when I'm waking up, if I've got a day, I try to keep at least 3-4 days clear if I'm going to paint. I can't paint for 2 hours in the afternoon. That's actually not possible for me, because if I get distracted at all, I can't do it. So I need lots of time. But if I know that I'm going to have time, I'll get started. And I'm quite a quick worker, actually, if I get my concentration going. If I can really get my concentration going and I'm listening to either good play on the radio or some really good music, then I just zoom on. And I like to have maybe 5 or 6 boards or bits of paper ready, because once I start working, I'll have maybe 100 ideas and I'd like to just try them all out. And then the ones that work.
Would you work, would you ultimately be working on multiple pictures at the same time, or are these all going to end up with the hope that one will work?
I would say I would hope more than one worked, but although I've got I only concentrate on one painting at a time, so I would have maybe several starts. A good start for me is a beautiful thing. It's also terrifying because you think you're going to wreck it, but a good start is what I'm always aiming for. Because if I've got a good start, as I call it.
How do you know what is a good start? How do you know? You just feel it. You feel it.
I can tell. The next time I do a good start, I'll send it to you. And the next time I do a rubbish start, I'll send it to you.
Okay. And don't tell me which one's which. Don't tell me which one's which.
No, okay. Well, that's maybe not good. Okay, I won't tell you which one's which, but if I have a rubbish start and then have another rubbish start, I think, actually, I'm not in the mood for this today. I'm going to go and do something else. But if I get a good start, then I get really, really excited. I mean, I get really overexcited and I start to just think, right, I've got to calm down and seize the moment, as they say.
Okay. And then you'll paint and paint. But could you paint right through non-stop to antisocial hours? And
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say, during lockdown, when it started, I was just painting all the time. All the time, and I was reading I started it before I didn't enjoy the book, the Hilary Spurning book about Matisse.
Okay.
And he painted in his pajamas, and I thought that was very inspiring.
Did you do that?
Yeah, I did, and it's a brilliant idea. And I would just paint through the night. Just the minute I'd waken up, I'd remember the painting. I can go to bed at night and remember the painting, and I can actually see the painting in my head, and I can think, I know what that needs. Sometimes it's just as simple as a bit of blue or a bit of red or something.
So do you have to get up then and deal with it?
Yeah, straight away.
So how does Roger cope with that?
You'd have to ask him. He sometimes realizes that I'm up and just taps on the door and gives me a wave and sort of, oh yes, here we go again.
Here we go. Exactly. Well, the thing is, it isn't a sort of being an artist isn't conditioned by office hours or any restraint like that. You do need to have immense freedom. I mean, do you remember when you became? I mean, you were obviously an artist, but were you a career artist when you became a mother for the first time? Do you remember that being a difficult juggling act? Because how did you make time for yourself? And there's a long period of time, maybe 10 years, when you're a parent, where you just can't put.
Actually, I didn't think at the time that I found it difficult. I think the thing that helps is that I'm not sociable.
Right.
I think if you wanted to go out and do sociable things, then you would find it tricky, but I never did. I never was like that. I mean, when I was at art school, I didn't go to a single art school party or a single art school dance. I didn't go to anything like that. So in a way, when I had the children, I think if I'm being honest, I found them quite inspiring.
Right. That's lovely to hear, because you hear a lot of people trying to, juggle, and there's no reason why they have to be seen as a burden, but it's an addition in your life, isn't it?
Yes, I would say that. And I didn't ever lock them out the studio. I mean, they used to just draw, and sometimes they would give me bits of advice. And I remember once, I mean, I didn't have any money. And once I had this tube of, I can't remember what the name of the pink paint was, but it was very, very expensive. And I was so expensive, I was scared to use it. And then I discovered that Judith, my younger daughter, had actually decided to help me with one of my paintings. she came and told me she'd helped me with one of my paintings, and she'd actually squeezed out all the pink paint and painted the bottom third of the painting. So I just thought, well, I'll have to incorporate that somehow, because I'm certainly not wasting the paint. But when I was at the exhibition opening, and somebody bought it and said, my 3-year-old daughter painted the bottom third of this. But she thought I was joking, but it was true. I think you learn a lot from children about art. I like the way they look at things. They never.
It's their uncluttered mind and the charm of being a child,
Yes.
where they don't have any bias or prejudice, or they're completely open to how they look and to what they want to be.
Do you know, the other thing I think is amazing, and you'll want to get off this subject fast, but I think it's incredible the way, if they're looking at something semi-abstract, they know what it is. They know that it's a banana or an apple or a pear. They know what the thing is. It's how they see it. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Because I suppose if you look at children's illustrations and those books, they are quite abstracted drawings, aren't they?
Yes, they are. They are.
Form and shape rather than in complete definition. They haven't refined themselves. So
exactly. No, I think I would say there were times, I must admit, when I felt that I didn't have enough time, but I always thought better to concentrate on the children, do what I could do, and now that I'm older, I've got all the time in the world, really.
I mean, you've had what, over 30 years of professional solo shows, mixed exhibitions, all that under your belt?
I think I had my first show in 1979 or something like that. Wow. And it was in the what was it called? What's that? Strathclyde University exhibition.
So just working out my mathematics quickly based on my age, I work out that to be 41 years ago.
So that's when it was. And you know, at that time, it was absolutely impossible to get an exhibition. The only way that you could actually exhibit really was, unless you were extremely well established, the only way you could get an exhibition was by putting things into the RSA or the RGI or the RSW or the RA.
So you mean there weren't very many commercial galleries and things?
None. And I tell you, that was a nightmare, because really at the end of the day, and I hate to say it, be controversial, but it's still like that. You get to know somebody, people get to know you, and they take in your work. And I hate those institutions. I can't stand them.
They don't sort of care for the work, do they, in the same way? It's sort of more of a community, and it's very much about who you know.
I think it's very corrupt, and I think it's a great shame that people who, I think it's better for younger people now. I hope it is anyway, but in those days, that's the only way you could show your work. Yeah. And I was very, very lucky with Sue Rankin. Yeah. Very lucky.
I think the worry, how did Sue Rankin come across you, or how did you come across Sue Rankin Gallery?
Well, she had come to Glasgow to see David Donaldson, and David Donaldson had recommended my work and Helen Wilson's work, and she gave us a show together. Okay. And I mean, it was unbelievably miraculous, actually. We just couldn't believe our luck. And she was wonderful. She was absolutely fabulous.
But things like that just, still can happen, can't they? Yeah. And, there's a sort of, there is some just really nice relationships out there. And they don't have to feel in any way driven by things other than, getting on and liking and connections. But it's very few and far between, definitely. There's a sort of always a commercial edge. And I say that obviously from the position of being a commercial gallery, but I don't think we approach it commercially.
I don't think you do approach it commercially. I mean, I'm very aware of that when it happens, and I can't have a relationship with a gallery that's a kind of what you call commercial relationship. I mean, I have to feel some kind of friendship in a way, and feel that I just couldn't, I don't know how to have a business relationship, actually. And I wasn't going to say you don't know how to, but
I probably don't really, because I can't.
I don't feel it's a business side. I think you're far too, I think you're not far too, I think you're so interested in the work and what people are doing and what's right for them. It's lovely. No idea how lovely that is.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, it is important because it's what I choose to surround myself by every day. And if I don't connect with it, then I can't do the best job I can for you. And I want other people to connect the way I do. That's my personal mission, is to see, who doesn't know who Christine McArthur is? You've got to come and see. You've got to come and see her work. You've got to come and spend some time with it, and pass on my enthusiasm as a position of sharing something that I've discovered, you know. And I think that the Thackeray's always sort of had that in its heart. So we were really lucky. I was really thrilled to, you know, get you back in again. And, you know, it's just been such a happy time. I was thinking the other day about, we all have bad days at work. And I was wondering, do you ever get in a really bad mood with any of your paintings? What do you do?
I get really bad tempered and horrible and nasty.
And what happens to the painting?
So sometimes I try to restore it by getting a scalpel knife and sort of, because I work a lot with collage, I can sit and watch a film and you know, de-paint it, unpaint it by tearing off all the paper. That can give you quite a nice surface, actually. So I start to think, as soon as, do you know what? As soon as I've made the decision, this is the difficult bit. As soon as you've actually owned up to the painting not being good enough, it's a huge sense of relief.
Yes.
Actually, an enormous sense of relief, because it can go on and on and on for a long time. You think, actually, it's okay. I can salvage it. I can do this. I can do that. And then there reaches a stage where occasionally that happens. But I would say once it gets to that stage for me.
Well, it's like relationships. I mean,
yes.
It's like so you have a relationship with your paintings, don't you? And
yes, I do.
It's so true that we are our own worst enemies, and that we convince ourselves, no, I can solve this, I can make it work, and it's a bit omnipotent almost, because actually sometimes things just are not going to marry up.
Exactly.
That bravery and that courage to walk away and start again. I mean, as you say, very few of them get resolved after you've sort of had a great big humdinger with it. It's very difficult to come through.
Very few. And I think if you can admire something about yourself, I don't know if you can, but the thing I like best about myself is when I've taken that difficult decision after spending a long time on something. And you're right, it's just like a relationship when you've spent a long time trying to resolve it and sort it out, and you think, and there's a horrible sadness at first when you think, right, this one's going to go, it's had it. And then there's this, woohoo!
Yeah, what makes room for something more exciting?
I can't get rid of it fast enough. I have actually.
You're talking about him.
I've thrown things into the back lane, and they've kicked about the back lane for weeks, and the bin men won't even take them away. But I try as far as possible to you know, really destroy them. I mean, really destroy them. I don't know if you watch much crime, but it's like a crime scene.
Okay, I do watch quite a lot of crime. Well, no, but actually, in truth, it's really good to destroy them properly, because the other horror in the art world is the discovery of the pictures and the paintings left in the studio that are the secret stash of the artist's work. Well, there's a reason why they're there. It's because they don't want them to be seen, and that needs to be respected. You know, yes, it's your responsibility to destroy, in a way, what you don't want out there. Like all of us, you know, you've got to clear as you go. Yeah,
I think that's quite true. I mean, anytime even with things that I think is not quite good enough, you keep them for all sorts of reasons. Actually, sometimes just because you spent a fortune on the paper. Yeah. But you hold on to things, and actually, if you think in 100 years' time, when you're dead, you think somebody might think this might be okay, but it's not okay, and so please burn after reading.
I mean, do you find when you look at your work all together in a gallery, obviously, because you are every day working with your pieces and resolving them, not resolving them, whatever it might be, they then go from you to the framer. Mm-hmm. A period of a month or a month and a half where you've let them go. They then come to me or whichever gallery. We then present them in whichever way we see fit. And each stage of the way, I always say, a painting's getting dressed up. Each stage, it leaves you naked, and then it it gets dressed up at the framers, and then we present it, and hopefully it's smart state, and then even from us to the home that it lives in, it looks better. So we can only showcase it in a gallery setting. This is what's been quite interesting about lockdown, actually, is that it's forced me as a gallery owner to bring the gallery into my home and share that back out. And I think that's been a very interesting experience, because ultimately that's where paintings go. They don't sit in a gallery, and they shouldn't sit in a gallery. We are just a temporary measure. And hold on a second, sorry, I've just got something come up. We're a temporary measure, and they need to, and their final destination is where they're going to settle and get their roots. But my question to you was actually going to be, what does it feel like when you see all the work suddenly together, framed in a gallery space? What do you feel, bang, when you walk into the gallery? What happens for you?
I'm usually a bit confused to start with, a bit confused. I have a very strong respect for the galleries. I think when you hand over work, actually when T.S. Eliot used to say about his poetry, once he'd written the poetry, it was none of his business. And I kind of agree with that. I think that you do what you do best. I'm actually get quite overwhelmed at the thought that somebody buys a painting, actually spends money on a painting, and I love the idea of the paintings being in people's homes. That makes me feel quite emotional, actually, if I'm being truthful, because I think it's a huge thing. Somebody's sharing a bit of your life with you, with me, and so therefore, the other thing that I can do sometimes is look at the paintings and say, could I have done that any better?
Yeah.
And I try not to do that, because I know perfectly well that if they've left the studio, then at that state, I couldn't have done them any better.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, there's a strange feeling of, it's like when your children go to university and you know they're adults now, and you can't tell them to eat up their greens and all of that sort of thing. You think, well, by that time, I'm usually on to the next load of work.
I was going to say, what you're talking about is the process of letting go.
Yes, I used to find that difficult. I mean, I still find it difficult, but you can't show paintings and in exhibitions and want to hold on to them at the same time. And one thing I have learned is, and I learned this when I was quite young, if you hold on to a painting and think it's the best thing you've ever done and don't let it go, you don't do anything any better. And I always think I want every exhibition to be different, and it doesn't try to make it better than the one before, but that's not really the way to describe it. It's a new experience. I want every exhibition. I work in terms of exhibitions. I work in a group of work, so I see the group of work and I see a big part of my life. That's how I feel. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It completely, and that's completely how they come across. They come across as collections.
That's what they
come across as sort of windows into your life at that time. They feel very focused, very tight, very open. Ironically, they feel both things, but they feel like a considered collection rather than, oh, it's just a rambling 2 years of work. It is, you something's inspired you, you're focused, you work on this collection, you complete it, it's done.
Yeah. Yes.
I make it sound easy, right?
It's easy when it's going well. I mean, people talk about paintings painting themselves and books writing themselves, and sometimes it is like that. Sometimes it really is like that.
Well, I mean, from a perspective of being the gallery that represents you, and also from a personal perspective of someone who lives with, I think, about 16 of your paintings. I was counting around the house last night. I think I might have a bit of an addiction problem. There are worse addictions to have, I'll tell you, many worse. They are completely enriching to live with.
Oh, well, thank you.
And not at all, thank you. And I think that probably if the clients were in the space as a private view, the irony is for an artist with a private view, these things that who knows if we're ever going to have them again. A lot of the time the clients want to thank the artist.
I think a lot of the time the artist wants to thank the clients.
I think it's a mutually thankful society, where everybody feels grateful for the part that we all play in continuing to have art on our walls, continuing to have creative people in our lives, and to be the if I can't paint a picture. People often say to me, you must be able to paint. And I go, I simply cannot paint. And the more time I spend with people that can, I know I can't. So that's not my thing. My thing is the other side of it, you know, and
it's still very creative.
Exactly. And I said that it's a very interesting role, mine, because it's a very creative role. And one of the most creative parts is actually the people. And working with the people, it's very creatively stimulating, and working with the artists and the clients, both sides. It's a completely different dynamic, and yet very important. But I'm aware that the Zoom is coming up to running out of time, as it says, because it comes up on this thing. But I did just want to say thank you for being prepared to do this interview, because we're in such extraordinary times. I don't know what's around the corner for any of us, but it's wonderful that we've got this show to open our autumn season with, and something to look forward to. And I couldn't honestly think of a better artist for us to open our doors in September with.
You'll make me cry. Stop it.
Oh no, not at all. It's true. And I think it's going to bring so much joy to so many people. You know, whether people red spot them or don't red spot them, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that they're going to be out there. They're going to be enjoyed through our windows. They're going to be enjoyed by people that come in, and we, on a very selfish basis, day to day, get to live with them for a month or two. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. I think I'm very lucky to have you showing my work. That's how I feel.